Hello, my name's Ryan Seeley, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to skim a wall. As this wall is not a plasterboard wall, the first thing we need to do is prepare the surface. This is done by applying a coat of PVA watered down at a ratio of 1:1 to the entire surface of the wall. Once applied, you should allow the PVA to dry until tacky to the touch, as that's the ideal time for us to start applying our plaster to the surface of the wall. So let's have a look at some of the things we'll need. There's multi-finish, a couple of buckets for holding your clean water, and also you'll want one for washing out. A trowel, now I've got a flexi trowel and a standard trowel, but either should be fine for a beginner. A hook, a gauging trowel, an angle tool, a spatula and a splash brush. You'll want something to mix the plaster in, a mixing tub, and something to mix the plaster with, a whisk. If you look closely, I'll show you the correct consistency. There's a little bit of leeway, people do prefer different things, but it's not too dissimilar from yogurt, and the way to get there is to keep adding plaster to the water and never water to plaster. You want to go in small stages and just keep mixing until it's completely free of lumps and looking something like that. The final stage of preparation is just to give all the tools a quick wet down to prevent the plaster from sticking. Now we're ready to apply the plaster. Whenever applying plaster, you always start in the top left hand corner of the wall and you move from left to right, coming down to about halfway down the wall. This is known as putting on the tops. Once we reach the other end of the wall, we come back to the left hand side, start from the bottom and come up to meet the plaster halfway up the wall. The only exception to this is if you're left handed, you do it in the reverse, you go from right to left. The first coat will be applied around 2mm thick, and the second coat will be applied around 1mm thick, making a total of 3mm. What you want to do is take a little bit of plaster off of the hook with the trowel, like so, which you can then apply straight to the wall using firm and consistent pressure to spread the plaster nice and evenly. And that's the first coat complete. If you're plastering more than one wall, remember to run in the angles between the coats of plaster. Wash off your tools and get ready for the second coat. You'll need to mix up again, and this mix for the second coat needs to be a little bit more runny than the first coat, and you'll need about half as much. Now the second coat is more or less exactly the same to apply as the first coat. The only difference is you'll want to make sure that you're a little bit neater and take a little more care getting it nice and flat, because it'll make a big difference when it comes to troweling up. As you can see, I'm just pressing the plaster right into the skirting board. I'm just going right down to the line and making sure that all the little gaps and hollows are filled along that the bottom edge. Here, take notice of the fact that as I'm moving the trowel, the angle of the trowel to the wall is kept consistent as it glides over it. So it's giving a nice consistent shine rather than wobbling the trowel, which would give a ripple effect on the wall. So you want to scrape down those edges, just clean them off as you go. The plaster's still quite soft, it's started to firm up a little bit, but it's definitely soft enough to get it off of the coving and the surrounding walls and the skirting board now, rather than letting it go hard and struggle scraping it off later. So just keep everything nice and clean as you go. Splash a little bit of water on the wall to keep the surface nice and lubricated, and then start troweling up. Nice firm pressure in a downward stroke, with quite a shallow angle from the trowel to the wall. You don't want too sharp of an angle, otherwise you'll take the plaster off. And we're following the same pattern as we did before, starting in the top left, moving right, and then doing the same from the bottom left to right. You want to make sure you keep cleaning off your trowel, keep wiping it clean with your brush, and going back to the bucket and just washing it down. Now the second trowel is almost the same as the first. Again, just keep the surface greased with water, just lightly misted with it, a little bit of a splash on there, and then you're basically just moving the water on the surface, applying nice firm pressure, and you can increase the angle of the trowel a little just to get a bit of a sharper edge. If you damage the plaster while troweling up, you just want to use a little bit of fat off the end of your trowel just to fill in the hole and nicely smooth over it. So that's the second trowel more or less done. Now all that's left to do is brush in those edges and the angles, make sure everything's nice and smooth and clean, and then we're on to the cross trowel. Now the cross is basically just a polish. You're flicking a bit of water on and then just really sharp angle on the trowel and just pushing it back and forth along the trowel, going horizontal from top to bottom. Lots of pressure on the cross trowel as well, really press it in. Now with the cross trowel finished, you've got a nice and smooth, freshly skimmed wall. So that's the video. Thank you very much. I hope you learned something in this tutorial, and I hope we've done enough to get you to come back in the future. Please subscribe to the channel. There'll be plenty more tutorials coming up, all